What unfolded in this hearing was far more than a policy discussion. It was a moment where history, identity, military service, and moral responsibility intersected in one of the clearest, most personal statements we've seen from a member of Congress in recent years. Representative Eric Sorensen didn't just ask questions. He offered a reminder of what patriotism looks like when it comes from someone who understands exclusion firsthand.
Mr. Secretary, I'm hopeful that we can come to an agreement that we need both sides of the chambers working together for the betterment of the military. Do you believe that bipartisanship is essential to the mission of our armed forces, yes or no? Bipartisanship.
I think bipartisanship can be a wonderful thing.
Great. Because I didn't come to Congress with political baggage. I was called here because, I believe, and my constituents believe, that we need impartial, bipartisan people to find solutions to complex problems. But today, this nation is being pushed and pulled in so many different directions. I had a constituent this weekend that said, Eric, I don't even know what to believe anymore. Facts don't matter. Conspiracy theories run rampant like brush fires without anyone to quell them. So I'm hoping you can shoot straight from the hip with me. We're almost done. Do you have a targeted number of reductions in civilian personnel in our armed forces?
We have very diligently tried to identify the places where we might need to make changes, but for the most part, it's been a DRP process, a volunteer process of civilians to try to reduce the number for cost savings.
Is there an analysis that supports how you're coming up with these decisions?
We looked at about 8 to 10%, Congressman, but ultimately, everyone here acknowledges that the civilian size of the DoD has exploded over the last 20 years. And so where there are room for efficiencies, we are actively trying to find them and right-size those spots, because a lot of those places are not making us more nimble or faster at what we do. And
what do we say to
the people, but it's the numbers.
Right. What do we say to the people that have strived in their entire life? These are former, retired members of the military working as civilians back home. What do we say to them?
Well, almost all of them took a voluntary DRP to separate.
Do you have a timeline for making these cuts?
Like I said, almost all of them were volunteers who themselves decided to retire early.
Okay. I want to reset for just a moment. And I'm going to be honest with you. I learned a lot about military service from both of my grandpas who served and fought in World War II. My grandpa Sorensen was a proud Navy photographer. I have his photos. They're framed above my desk here on Capitol Hill. I learned to be proud of him. And from him, I learned how to become proud of veterans, which is why I want to talk about a different veteran, one who served in the Korean War from 1951 to 55. He served courageously like my grandpa Sorensen. But unlike my grandpa, this veteran was forced to resign from the Navy. I'm talking about Harvey Milk, because he was gay. You see, as a kid, all I wanted to be was the weatherman on TV. I learned that I could have gone into the Army or the Navy to learn meteorology, but someone like me wasn't allowed. They didn't want someone like me, Mr. Secretary. There wasn't anything that I could do to change myself or the way that my nation thought of me. And so I want to keep this very simple. Do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks?
Sir, the decision to rename the ship was...
I'm just asking, do you believe that Harvey Milk is a veteran who deserves his country's thanks? Yes or no?
If his service was deemed honorable, yes.
Yesterday, the Secretary of the Navy was in your seat. He couldn't give me a straight answer. I disagree with your leadership and his, because I believe that every veteran deserves our thanks. We all walk in the footsteps of leaders before us, and you may not find the value in the fact that many of those people are women with different skin colors, different backgrounds, different talents, immigrants, gay, straight, transgender, disabled. You may want to change it, but you can't, because the America that you and I both serve is a place where everyone has the ability, or should have the ability, to grow up and be the hero their grandpa was. I wanted to do that when I was a kid. We're going back to that time. Gay kids like me, they don't want to go into the Army. They don't want to go into the Navy because you don't care for them. It's happening all over our country. My grandpa taught me never to judge the value of a veteran's service. And I hope, Mr. Secretary, you learn to do the same in your capacity, and you can find it in your heart to make that part of your process. May God continue to watch over our troops, our veterans, and our military families. I yield back.
This wasn't political theater. It was a plea to recognize the full humanity of every person who has ever served in uniform, including those the system once pushed out or erased. Before Sorensen ever mentioned Harvey Milk, he did something essential. He framed the conversation around bipartisanship and truth. He spoke directly to a rising reality in America, that facts are becoming harder for people to hold on to, that conspiracy theories spread faster than reason, and that trust in institutions is eroding. He set the stage by reminding everyone that public servants owe the people more honesty, more clarity, and more decency. Then came the pivot, a pivot you could feel building. Sorensen grounded himself in his own family history, in stories passed down from his World War II veteran grandfathers. He used that lineage not as a shield, but as a bridge, connecting traditional images of military heroism with a broader understanding of who has served this country and who has been denied recognition. And that's where Harvey Milk enters the conversation, not as an icon, not as a symbol, but as a veteran. A Navy veteran whose service was honorable, but whose career, like thousands of LGBTQ service members across decades, was cut short by discrimination that had nothing to do with performance and everything to do with prejudice. Sorensen wasn't just asking a yes or no question about whether Milk deserves thanks. He was confronting a reality that America has spent generations trying to correct, that LGBTQ service members gave their all to a country that did not always accept them. The emotional weight of Sorensen's remarks came from authenticity. He told the truth many LGBTQ Americans know intimately, that service wasn't always an option, that a young gay kid, no matter how patriotic or capable, could be told through silence or regulation or culture that the military didn't want them. And when he told the secretary, there wasn't anything I could do to change myself or the way my nation thought of me, he offered a rare kind of vulnerability in a hearing room that usually rewards stiffness and deflection. That vulnerability is what made the next moment so powerful, when Sorensen said plainly that gay kids today are again feeling unwelcome. Whether intended or not, political rhetoric, cultural battles, and policy debates create an atmosphere, and young people absorb it. When he said, they don't want to go into the Army, they don't want to go into the Navy because you don't care for them, he wasn't making a partisan attack. He was naming a consequence, naming the cost, naming what's at stake when leadership fails to affirm the dignity of all who serve. And at its core, this hearing became about something fundamental. What does it mean to honor a veteran? Is service only valued when it comes from a certain type of person? Or does the uniform and the sacrifice behind it demand recognition regardless of sexuality, race, gender identity, disability, or background? Sorensen's message was clear. Every veteran deserves thanks. Every service member deserves respect. And leaders, especially those entrusted with the safety and morale of the armed forces, must hold that standard without hesitation. This wasn't a debate about the name of a ship. It was a debate about whether the United States will acknowledge its full history, including the parts where patriots were punished simply for being who they were. Harvey Milk didn't stop being a veteran because he was gay. And the LGBTQ Americans who wanted to serve but weren't allowed never stopped being patriots. Sorensen closed with a hope, not a demand, that the secretary may someday learn what his grandfather taught him, that you don't measure the worth of a veteran by who they are, but by the service they gave. If you want more analysis that goes deeper than headlines, analysis that explores the human stories behind political moments and the values that shape our democracy, make sure you stay connected. Understanding these moments is how we understand ourselves, our history, and the country we're still striving to become.